from Taiwan Semiconductor. He's here. Can you just raise your hand, Mark? Say, I'm here.
For this kind of interpretation,
you guys hear that? That's not us, is it? Okay. Yeah, it's AI. I thought it was the voice in my head, and I was like, it's happened. Qingfeng Yu is here. And if you guys have seen that translator device everybody's carrying, that's his. Will you speak into it? Yunsu Shim is here from Samsung, Senior Vice President of Samsung in charge of AI software. Yunsu is right here. We'll be talking to him also. Dan Vedit from Metapad in the UK. He gave up his PhD dissertation to create this company. And we'll talk a little bit about his decision to just dedicate his life to this. Xiaowen Hun from Microsoft is sitting next to me. And of course, Zhu Guang from Baidu. And Baidu, of course, one of the BAT companies, has made great AI announcements of late, I think. So let's talk about, it isn't the first time, is it, that AI has come under the spotlight. Well, let's start with Mark of Taiwan Semiconductor. What's different now?
Okay, let me start. There are a lot of experts in this field. Let me categorize it. I'm only familiar with one part of this technology breakthroughs. I think the first part is the deep learning or deep neural network or distributed neural network. That breakthroughs happened about 3-4 years ago. That brings to the modernization of AI.
So before deep learning, it was just really computation, and now suddenly it's deeper.
Then I think with the depths of neural network, technology computing power becoming a critical part of the realization of the algorithm. And technology is continually improving. That is the exciting part of a semiconductor. The computing power in the past 10 years has improved 100 times. And you can not ignore the future 10 years. We hope another 100 times, because there's computing technology based on the semiconductor technology, which we do not see the end yet. And of course, lastly, the big data is available. Everybody use the data service provider, and that is the fertile soil for the AI to be implemented.
So it's finally here, but it makes me ask you, because the question is, what makes this time different? Will it just fade again like it did once in the 80s and once in 2000?
Let me add to what Mark said. The goal of AI technology is to realize something our human brain does by computers. When people try to work out AI, they try to actually write down what human thinks. Actually, it was called symbolic AI, because that's what we do. We communicate with languages. So they try to write down languages. So they created new languages for AI, but it didn't work. The reason is that actually, our human language is very powerful, but also limited. We cannot really express why I think that way. Actually, intuition is a very high-level form of AI. We cannot explain our intuition in languages. The development of deep neural network is actually enabling computers to find something we cannot write down in human languages. So it's called features or representation. That is a fundamental structure of the data given to the computer. Now, deep learning is an algorithm that allows computers to identify the features or representations without human help. That is the difference between the current AI and the old AI technology. And that is so powerful, and now we are seeing almost revolution of AI field.
And that takes into account reinforcement learning, right? And that's where the computer learns with a carrot and a stick. You know, it's looking at a picture of somebody, you know, is that Mark? And it says yes, wrong, and then it learns after yes and no, right?
No, I also want to point out the AI actually has a long history. I mean, at least 62 years, the history. The first time we heard about the AI, and then I think I studied AI in the 80s. And I think we start also use data. So what's different today? I would say some people call ABC. It's a pretty good word. The artificial intelligence, big data, and computation. And computation, often people today call cloud. And I think Qingfeng knows. We actually use the data for a lot of the speech, the image in the 80s and the 90s. But the data is not big enough. And then computation, thanks to Mark, the Moore's law, the semiconductor, the computation did not allow us to try very complicated model. The neural net actually started also 60 years ago, and I think in the 80s and 90s, the neural net also get the first come out of the AI winter. But the data and computation didn't allow us to try very complicated model. And suddenly now the deep learning, of course, they are technology innovation. But I think without the big data and computation, there's so this is why I think AI get too much credit. At the same time, AI also get too much brand on all the bad things happen. We actually say, oh, because of AI. So I think depending on how you look at it. So, but overall, it's really the whole IT industry and plus the field of AI advancement make it possible today. So
everyone's familiar. My mic doesn't work. Oh. No, it's back. Thank you. Everybody's familiar with Moore's law, right? Every 18 months, the power of the chip doubles and the price halves, and that's what you've got this going on. Is it the same thing? Are we looking at essentially the same rate of improvement in AI, or faster, Dan?
Well, I guess if you look at the whole concept of AI, at the moment we are very focused on narrow AI, but the smarter the AI becomes and we will have a strong AI, we will end up having a concept of compound interest. The better the technology gets, the better it gets. And ultimately means, I think, if we can continue the computing powers growth the way we have, thanks to all the cheap companies, we think that the growth and the impact of intelligence technologies will be faster than the rate of the chips. And it's a kind of like compound interest. It gets better and it adds up and it gets better. So and that's the things that sometimes some people are scared, right? Elon, when talks about the future of AI and how complicated the world might get, it's because he's referring to the compound interest concept rather than just the simple stuff that we are doing today. And it might or might not get out of control. We'll see.
I have two questions on that. Can you define for everybody narrow versus strong AI in your words?
Sure. Narrow AI is like simple stuff like Siri. You have these like boundaries about voice recognitions, and you talk to it and you get back something. Or in medical, you have medical imaging that can look at your images and find a tumor. So always the application is defined, the expectation is defined. But at some point, like us, we can interact in different words. Depending, if somebody throw me something at me, I might react differently, and I can be very flexible to any environment, and that is kind of like the line that there is between narrow AI and strong AI, something that can have applications across different verticals or different scenarios. But we are very, very far from it, to be honest. We are not close. Even in a narrow AI, we are struggling. Again, you have Siri not working the best way that we expect. You have this like a replies on the emails that you write an email and then Google can fill the rest of it for you. Or autonomous cars, they're still struggling a lot across what Google is doing, Tesla, Baidu, all the big companies. So we are still at the beginning of it, but I think slowly we're gonna get there. The same way that we started with internet, and at the beginning it was like very crappy, very slow, or these phones that they were like very useless, but now our life is kind of like we cannot live without them. And we believe the same sort of pattern happens. It takes probably longer than we think as people, because human beings, we are always optimistic overall. but it will happen.
Yeah, humans also have.
Let me add on the technology. Yeah. The AI technology is not just about Moore's law. Okay. And we are in the business of unleash innovation in semiconductor. So innovators, customers come to us, and we customize technology for them. And recently we see 4 segments as growth momentum. One is the smartphone. The other is high-performance computing, cloud, as well as networks, and some edge devices computing. Third is automotive. All the car companies coming to us for the 7 nanometers. They used to be several generations behind. And IoT, Internet of Things. So, but if you look at where is the standalone AI device? Well, Qingfeng may have one, but not that many today. Not many today. If you think of one, probably surveillance device, unfortunately. But we see the AI function embedded in all those products embedded. So that is the signal of spring of AI is coming. That's what I see it.
The spring of AI. I love that. I want to talk about your mobile device, because you mentioned earlier, he said, it's really going to be mobile that is the big break for AI. And I see that, right? Because before the web and the internet was around, it was only when everyone could easily access it from home and work that it really took off. And now, how will it look in mobile? Do you guys just want to all talk a little bit about it? Like, what it's going to look like 2-3 years as it happens? You can start with Qingfeng, because your device is...
Please speak to the microphone.
In order to explain more clearly, I prefer to use Chinese. Okay. 我想呢，2到3年之后的事。
After 2 to 3 years, the AI technology will be reflected on 2 aspects. More and more industries will be using AI, along with the increase of the computational capacity and the in-depth learning in different industries, and the accumulation of data that will be learned by AI with the prerequisite of the privacy protection. AI will help humankind to become more successful. Let me give an example. AI in China's university entrance exam, in the examination of the essays writing, more and more AI is doing the evaluator's job. And about the medical, last year, AI has passed the professional medical doctor's exam. The AI machine got a very high score, ranked at the top 5%. So they perform really well. So these medical machine doctors in March, actually they are providing online diagnosis in Anhui provinces for the patients in Shanghai. We also have AI to help the courts to make final judgment. And for the criminal cases as well, murdering case and the fraud cases, all have very good performances. So the landing of AI in different industries are becoming the reality. Let me give you some examples. Like the exams, some exams in the future can be done remotely at home. And at home you can use medical services in the future, because AI will be providing online diagnosis to you remotely. So AI will be providing more conveniences to you, like the translation device. I'm very happy to see many foreigners using these translation devices yesterday. And the English level of this translation device is much higher than mine. I believe that in 5 to 10 years' time, everyone will have an AI assistant who understands you and help you to finish your work. Maybe at the very beginning, only 10% of the workload, and then it will become 50%, so men can be relieved from a huge
5
workload.
to 10 years, I was just going to ask you, Wang Zhou.
对，我想补充一下未来的一个趋势。
I want to add about the future trend. AI is the heated topic. Industries are using AI technologies. So let's be bold and think about the future. More and more companies. You'll be just like they used to pay a lot of attention to Internet Plus 10 years ago. In the future, more and more companies will become AI Plus. There will be some companies with the nature of a platform kind of companies to provide the basic AI technologies for companies like Baidu. We have audio, video, language processing capabilities. We've opened all of those processing capabilities to the developers. So now we have 500,000 developers doing their innovations. So in the future, 3 to 5 years, even 10 years, you will find every industry is closely linked with AI, and there will be some platform kind of company to provide better tools, better algorithms for companies, for other companies to achieve their AI transformation. Another example, Baidu, as you all know, that in the automobile industry, we help other automobile companies to come up with autonomous driving. We're also cooperating with the stereo companies in producing the AI stereos embedded in the automobile. In financial industry, we're cooperating with China Agricultural Bank. It's a huge state-owned bank, and they have announced an AI strategy, saying they will transform to AI to intelligent bank. Baidu is building the infrastructure for them to from the all different levels, risk control, customer services. All of these will be provided by AI technology. So we believe this close embedding of it.
One of the first areas where we saw usable, mature, I guess, narrow AI, wasn't it?
Yeah, like what Mark said, I think the intelligent, in Microsoft we call infusing artificial intelligence to every product we make. And in the bigger world, it's really we call intelligent cloud, intelligent edge. So I think you mentioned mobile, but the mobile actually going to the next step is really, we heard about IoT, Internet of Things. So all these devices combined with algorithm, data, and computation will provide you much better service anywhere. So that's really the future world. So depending on how you call it. But again, I think the word artificial intelligence is a myth. I think it's just, if you think about it, it's a better algorithm. It's very different than human intelligence. I probably will say something very different than what people think. Because artificial intelligence is mostly about taking data, taking a big data. And I think in human intelligence, we call someone informative, knowing a lot of data. But remember, no human can actually know a lot of data. A lot of data we don't even allow to know, right? The one simple example is the inside trading, right? Someone has inside information. Of course, they can make a lot of money, but you don't call this person intelligent. You call this person a criminal, right? Sneaky. So exactly. But the human intelligence actually all about small data. Let me make an example of why I say so. People, 2 years ago, we finally observed what Einstein hypothesis about gravity wave. So you think about 100 years ago, more than 100 years ago, Einstein has no equipment, no data, and he hypothesized something called gravity wave. 100 years later, we barely using the modern technology to observe some data. So Einstein, when he do that, he actually no data. That's at least small data, probably no data. So, and also the other difference is human intelligence is all about using Chinese 以简制繁. The artificial intelligence is 以繁制繁. So let me use the English word to explain that. The so-called deep learning is actually mostly pattern recognition, complicated pattern recognition, just like the chess Go. If you play chess Go, human how to learn it, trying to extract some simple rule and principle, and then but you know now you all know how AlphaGo beat the human, because all these are very complicated. They just basically remember all different. Yes, there's a fancy algorithm. We so-called deep learning, we so-called reinforced learning. But what it did, it just really make a complicated. When you have complicated pattern, you actually know what's the best move. If those can be extracted into a simple rule, then people can play. So I think that if you look at the human, even like in physics, why Einstein wanted to do gravity wave or quantum, the so-called quantum physics, because he wants to use one single theory to unify the whole thing in the physics. Even he failed to do that. Maybe we still have 2 or 3 theories. So that's really human beings really using a simple abstract, a simple principle and rule and to explain the world. So going back to the weak AI and the strong AI or general AI or spatial AI, what AI do is no different than 50, 60 years ago so-called expert system. Each expert are very narrow, but they are very good, right? Used to be rule-based. Today, you just collect a lot of data, right? But general AI, so this is why often the term is misleading. Weak AI is actually very strong because but in each domain they are expert. The so-called strong AI is a human being, us. We actually don't know, we are not expert in anything, but we have a general intelligence. We can solve unsolved problems. Finally, I want to say one thing. Never worry. There's a compound of this AI. That's really. To me, in the history, there's never evidence intelligence can have a compound effect. Einstein, probably we think is the smartest person in the world. Did he solve all the problems? Obviously not. And then today you solve a very hard problem. Does it make the next hard problem easy to solve? Let me mention an example, make sure not too tacky. Something called is whether NP equal to P. Actually, we already passed the computer science today. There's no way we're ever, or anytime soon, we are going to solve this problem. So there's a compound of networking effect. There's a compound of data effect. But intelligence never has a compound effect because there are so many problems we don't know how to solve. And I think the same whether it's human intelligence or artificial intelligence. So I think we just need to realize artificial intelligence is very different than human intelligence. So.
Yet there's so much fear about this.
Yeah.
And I'd love to ask the audience, how many of you are kind of, I won't say afraid, but you think, whoa, somebody ought to watch this? I mean, can you raise your hand if you're like a little scared of AI, or if you don't care, then don't raise your hand. No fear, only? Yeah. I won't tell anyone. No one wants to admit it. I'm nervous about biotech and AI, but go ahead.
I want to add something so that audience can understand the current technology progress. There are some very interesting comparisons, like AlphaGo, the game of Go, because the rules are so clear. And it's very clear and close rules and with abundant information, and I can see what my opponent is going. So in some areas, the information and technologies are not close. Like the healthcare industry, the bacteria might change in different places, and the senior citizens will have different needs compared to the young generation. So there are different kinds of different nature of technology and different application scenarios. In the past, if we talk about audio recognition, I think this is 90%. If you use our input methodology, it will be 98% of precision. However, human can reach 80%. There's a square contest or competition in Microsoft. AI can surpass the average level of mankind, so machine can actually beat human in these areas. However, this machine has learned 10,000 essays. So without these essay learning, then I wouldn't say they would beat the human. The organizer said only 90. During the competition, we got a score of 58, and we were ranked number 1. Even if you guess, you can get 50. So, without the background,
so in many cases, AI could replace many work, but with one condition, that they have to be supported by a lot of data. So in many years, I think the idea would be kind of coupled scenario between man's brain and AI. That would be the best kind of scenario.
Mark, I like the answer. Don't be afraid of AI.
Yeah.
It's all because of the wrong terminology.
Well, it's like being afraid of a calculator in a way. I mean, a calculator is only as powerful as...
You are much more than AI. You have your mind, you have your heart, you have your soul. And AI is only a scratch of the mind. Okay. Let's talk about translation. Actually, translation lost 50% of the meaning, no matter what you do. If you just a perfect translator, you lost 50% of the meaning, because no language has the same background and culture with embedded in those words. Okay, but translation will continue to improve. No doubt about it. But let those jobs, give it to the machine. We don't need to waste of time to do what machine can do. Okay, just like if you are very young, engineers doesn't worry about calculator will diminish their job. Their job evolves, and human don't need to be feel diminished because of AI, because human will evolve too. But nonetheless, how does human work with this artificial intelligence? That's a problem. That's a problem.
How does human work with it? How does the privacy?
Now, human, you know how to work with a calculator, right? Even calculator give you a wrong answer, you can tolerate it, right? Because your key kicked the wrong button, right? And you probably work with computer quite well. I mean, even the algorithms sometimes have bugs, but you tolerate it. Artificial intelligence currently is a black box for most of the people, because it collects a lot of data which human can never be able to embrace. However, therefore, how does human work with AI probably is determining how quickly AI can be deployed to the human being.
I mean, I think that when people are afraid, they're maybe afraid of the wrong thing. Like, you can be afraid of jobs, you can worry about the ethics, the privacy, what's going to be done with all your medical information that Dan collects. Sorry, Dan.
I guess 2 examples. We as a human being, we like ourselves, and we like to think we are the best things in the planet Earth, right? And that's why we are scared of thinking about a concept that might become more intelligent than us, more capable than us. And I'll give you an example of heart. For some patients, when your heart stops working, they put a physical robotics heart in your body, and the heart that they are making these days can outlast your life. So for the very first time, human being managed to build a heart that is better than, from the functional perspective, our own hearts. And if we get the same example for our brain, which is everything about thinking is happening, we as a human being are very limited. We live today 100 years max, the capacity of our brain is like as big as a football ball, right? So there is a limitations, and with that limitations, the brain working fantastically, right? It's magical what we can achieve with it. And we have this graph of like this in terms of how we are learning and we're getting better and more intelligent and more intelligent. But I find it very limited if we think technology, the computing power, all the algorithms that we're going to develop in many years, and those algorithms might be able to contribute back to the learning, because that's what's happening today. DeepMind at Google, which I know them quite well, they're doing some really cool stuff that the machine learns from what it has generated. You play a Go game without teaching the machine, it can play another game and win very quickly without any data even. So it has already started getting the concept of what we call intuition. So I find it very difficult for myself to assume that this, whatever we want to call it, AI, computing power, cannot get better. Maybe it takes 20 years, maybe it takes 100 years, maybe it takes 1,000 years. I'm not commenting on that. But I think there will be a day that robots or machines or things that are not human will become more intelligent, more capable than us, unless we find a way to create a hybrid. So you connect your brain, you extend your brain capacity, because at the moment we are limited by the size of our brain. And if you compare mice to us, the only difference why we are so smart is because we have a bigger brain, and our brain has more neurons. I think we have 80,000 something or 800 million, numbers like that, and the mice has like, I don't know, 100 or 1,000. So that's just the difference, and we can create those things in a digital world at some point. So I believe, and I think a lot of people believe, the robots will become smarter than us unless we find a way to create a hybrid. And the hybrid becomes very interesting because as a human, because of all the limitations we have, the uniqueness of human being and human brain is very efficient. The amount of power our brain uses, if you want to power up the similar computer, you need maybe the whole like Boal conference like facilities to just power up like my brain and your brain and everyone's brain. And this efficiency with the power and the scale that digital world computers can bring, that is interesting. And if you keep this link, then the brain will protect the future of mankind, and then we shouldn't be worried about it. But if we don't, I think we will have problem at some point. And I'm not saying it will be 5 years, maybe 1,000 years. I don't comment on that because it's just really, really hard to predict future, and anybody trying to predict, usually you're like shooting yourself in your foot. That is what we think, that's what we have seen based on our experience in medical knowledge, medical field, and also other companies that are doing great stuff. Baidu and Robin, they do really, really interesting stuff. Google guys doing really interesting stuff, and bunch of companies in UK which we work with, they're doing really interesting stuff.
Do you want to add something to that? And then I have a question in the front.
I will have a very different thought on this. I think first of all, there's a philosophical discussion. What is smart, right? What is smart? What's intelligence, right? I think the definition of intelligence has changed. And the capable, you are right. Machine already so capable than human. So many things. I mean, we cannot run faster than a car, right? And then no one think actually the word computer is good word. Computer at the end is a computer. So in terms of computation, actually when I was, and I remember my first intellectual setback or disappointment is in the elementary school. I wasn't chosen to actually be the abacus team. The abacus is a form of computer. At that time, we think someone can do silent calculation. And for the companies, that is someone so smart. I wasn't even chosen to train. And then I think just like a goal, they actually have the label. And I think now people always think it's stupid. to compete with computer in computation. Therefore, obviously, we don't think that's very intelligent. So now, if you go upper, there's a creativity. There's no way. How can computer be creativity? I mean, can the creativity be done as an algorithm? If it can be done, then everyone can create everything. So, and then not to mention, every program today is written by human, right? So computer certainly has no creativity. Then how about wisdom? How about mind? And then I don't want to go there. So therefore, I think always it's I call it AI plus HI, or human plus the stuff. We don't run fast. We invent car to take us far. We cannot compute fast or accurate enough. We invent computer. So it's always what is human? It actually is us plus all the things we created in our society, and then increase our capability. So I think, and then let me just mention, at the end, whether it's AlphaGo, Go, or whatever, all the stuff we invented today, it's all help us to do this routine, and also something you do over and over again, like a computation, or even you so-called computer vision. They are let's not even go that far. Today, if I give you 10 phone number and ask you in 30 minutes, and then show you a random number, whether to see this number is 1 or this 10, everyone will fail. I myself I already moved for 3 years. I still cannot remember my home phone number, right? So if I cannot do that, now let's talk about, let's say there's a 50 suspects in Hainan province. Your goal is going to the entrance and to actually recognize whether this one of these 50 suspects actually come into this expo. And then I'm sure machine will do much better than human. But do you think suddenly machine is smarter than us? No. Actually, human intelligence, if I want to know if I want to know someone, that person, 中国人说烧成灰我都认得. This is what I say.
But
human intelligence is all about small data and no data. And I think that this is why human and the machine, just like we know how to use those things to help us to do the task, and then it's just for fun. Machine translation. Well, I think Xin-Feng mentioned a lot. The way human doing translation is very different than machine doing translation. Machine doing translation is one sentence at a time. Most translation algorithms I know today. Human, how do we do translation? We understand the whole paragraph using our word to actually say it out, and then we try to preserve the so-called semantic meaning. A lot of the time, one paragraph we translate into one sentence. One sentence we translate one full paragraph. And then I often had a translation experience when Satya, our CEO, come to China. I organize a meeting with government official. I become some simultaneous translator. And then several times I was caught by my CEO say, Han, I don't think I already said that. Why you already translate ahead of me? It's very important, very simple. I need to create the briefing document and then doing all this. In a sense, I can actually conduct a conversation even without him. So I can actually translate out of nothing because I know the context, I know what they are going to talk about. That's really how, if you're doing serious translation, that's how you do it. I try to make a joke, but actually this is true. This shows how we do things different. But is the machine translation useful? Of course it's useful. I also a lot of time, if I run into the language other than English, I really have no idea. Or even English, sometimes I need some help. And then the machine translator give me some hint, I think about it, and I learn and move on. So this is why the whole thing about this something will be smarter than us. I mean, even today, am I smarter than you? Are you smarter than me? How do you define, right? Yeah, we can go to take an IQ test, but does this matter?
That's a very good point. And, okay, can you guys do it quick just because I want to take his question. We'll come back. Go ahead, Dan.
So, 1,000 years ago, if you would have asked a human being, can you imagine flying? They would have told you, are you nuts? If you would have asked you, can you imagine you land on the moon? They would have told you, are you crazy? And today, these things, like we do it on a daily basis. Hopefully, with the SpaceX, also we can go to the moon on a daily basis. I think the possibilities of the future, we cannot say something is not possible forever. And I think that's a fundamental wrong thing, because we just cannot imagine the things that we haven't, it hasn't happened yet. So that's what I'm going to leave. Everything is possible, and things are possible in the future that we cannot even imagine today.
Let me say one sentence. I never say it's impossible. I say currently no evidence for me to believe it's coming out soon. And the other thing, I actually even make a point. It's a very moot point to say who or which is smarter than the other, and what I don't know what it means.
It's relative. Okay.
Let me add to this. Spring of AI is here, and we don't want to worry about the winter time. I mean, we just want the flower to bloom.
Oh, that's beautiful.
But it is limited by how human can work with machine.
I agree.
I think their arrogance of technologists. You see Zuckerberg in Congress in the U.S. You see Elon, the autonomous, Musk's car is crashing.
Yeah, his car's crashing.
But only one crash, okay? It is, humans do not understand some of the things technology created. That's the problem. Even the autonomous car is much safer than people driving. But they don't understand. If you two cars, one is driven by human, the other car is an autonomous car. When they hit the cross road at the same time, the human do not know what to do, because there's nobody say, hey, please go ahead. So this communication is lacking. We can create autonomous, we can create AI, but humans do not understand, do not know yet how to work with it.
Yeah, the human-robot interaction thing, I think really is the key.
But let alone the ethics, which comes later, when indeed we formulate some communication, then it comes to ethics. Is human higher than AI, or AI higher than human? Does human want to listen for instruction from an AI? It's a big question.
I was at a thing at the United Nations where they brought up the topic of robot rights. And I'm like, a robot doesn't have rights. That's like saying my monitor has rights, but that people anthropomorphize these things. You have a question. Go.
Very pragmatic question
Okay.
for Mark very pragmatic question for Mark and Dr. Han. I'm an investor in actually both your companies. The key question for me is when it comes to AI and machine learning, I've been a little confused because I'm not sure in the next 3 to 5 years, forget about the future, will there be more value created on the training side, in the large-scale, large wafer chipset side, or in the billions of edge devices, inference chipsets that are created? Where, as an investor, do you think I should think about value creation over the next 3 to 5 years?
Can Yunsu take a shot at that? Because we were talking about that exactly as far as Samsung goes.
We have great interest in that problem because one of our main businesses is actually mobile devices. Right now, the AI is being available on many phones and many devices. Actually, you use Siri, Alexa, and Bixby on your smartphone. Actually, what is happening is that the AI software is running on the cloud. All our data goes to the cloud and is trained over there. And actually, when you speak, actually the speech recognition is happening in the cloud. There are a couple of issues with this. Now, we have concern about privacy. To improve the performance of the algorithm, we need more data. And also, we have limitations in solving problem with small data. Right? We need to improve speech recognition for a certain extent of the specific person. Now, we cannot collect all the speeches of the person without breaking privacy. So actually, we have to migrate from dependency on the cloud to the AI in the edge, so that we can improve the performance of our AI technology without breaking privacy. And that is going to happen very soon.
And Yunsu, Samsung is working on chip technology to take AI off the cloud so that you have it and it's not being controlled by someone. Am I right?
Right, exactly. Right. So now training is happening in the cloud, but also training will happen on the edge as well. So inference and training will be both possible on the edge device in the very near future. But it will work with also AI on the cloud. We are not going to remove the cloud from the picture. So cloud will play a certain role, but a lot of things will happen on the edge.
I guess one
I echo
question,
that.
do you think in terms, because battery technology is like the problem, do you think it's a smart move to bring more computing to the phones that has limited battery and energy capacity?
No, battery is certainly a limitation for many things, including AI and multimedia and so on. So we need a new type of technology that can process AI tests with high power efficiency. Actually, industry is developing new type of processor. We call it neural processor, or some people call it neuromorphic processor, that is highly optimized for these AI algorithms. So that we'll be able to run a lot of AI applications without really reducing your battery life too much. It is going to happen very soon.
I think
我想补充一下。
If I may add, many technologies have already realized the offline versions. For example, voice recognition, 4 billion people are using, and a lot of people are actually not really using online because for privacy concerns, and also when the internet is not available, they can also use, for example, translation. It can be applicable or available when you're not even connected to the internet. So a lot of things can be done through the chip technologies. For example, this kind of translation is actually in the cloud, but in other places they might be in the local. In terms of the algorithm, there's a lot of room for optimization. Offline and the cloud will be combined. That will be the trend for the future. Now, if you want to improve with the rest of the world, you can put it on the cloud. If you want to only use it for yourself, and then put it in the local.
we see the computing is shifting from the cloud to the edge. The incumbent cloud service provider want everything in the cloud, but not necessarily consumers. Consumer want everything in their pocket, if the technology allowed.
Yeah, and it depends on the application too, and they can make that decision when they write to your library.
One comment: in an ideal world, which we don't have it yet, but we will have, you will be connected, 5G, 10G, whatever, everywhere in the planet Earth. And then I don't think there is any need to use these devices for processing, but also confidentiality and security will be dealt with new technologies and methods of blockchain applications. And if we want good service, and if good service means you get things done on cloud, we have so much private stuff already in the cloud. Our emails, our text messages are the most private things that we have. So I think we're going to go to a world that the internet is so great, everyone is connected anywhere, and I think the solutions we are working today is interim solutions, and it's great that we have some interim solutions, but they cannot be the future.
Okay, guys, we've got 3 questions in the audience. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 questions. Go ahead with the first question.
Thanks, Gina.
You're welcome.
My question is to Liu Qingfeng.
Gina, when you ask the question, are you scared? Actually, I'm not scared, but the finger crossed. Now,
in the medical pharmaceutical realm, you talked about the 465. You said that machines can be smarter than a lot of medical students. But 2 data in the clinical field. One is for the patient's data, the record. And then there's the issue of ethics. and then the habits of the treatment and the clinical practice of the physicians. Can you predict?
那怎么一方面能够继续让我们这些 MD 能够有工作，他们的工作不会被 diminish， 就像刚才刘总讲。
How can we make sure that we do not diminish the jobs of the physicians, but the computer doctors can work together with our traditional medical students? Can you predict a scenario like this? We combine the machine and the medical students.
Thanks for the question.
Okay.
If I may give you 3 reality scenarios. Number 1, the National Commission of Health last year actually started the first AI-enabled hospital in Anhui. It was the best hospital in Anhui. And they're targeting the cancers of lung cancer and breast cancer. So the AI was actually provided to the best hospital in Anhui. And now this AI technology is being applied at the eye department for the eye doctors. And now this service is being expanded to the less developed areas in Anhui. So 52 counties have already been made accessible to this AI technology. And all the general practice also has been made accessible to AI technology. Now, you talked about the physician's clinical practice. Now, after the description of the symptoms, you make your diagnosis. It is really difficult. In reality, there are a lot of questions and answers between the physicians and the patients, and the machines need to learn that. Now, before, we did not have such technology available. Now, in the best hospital in Beijing, the machines can actually ask the questions and give you answers. And let's say the patients are queuing up to talk to the doctors, and you can actually talk to the machines. So when the physicians are talking to you, they already got all the information necessary for him to give a diagnosis. So once this technology is more developed and all the hospitals in China can be made accessible to this technology, or this technology will be made accessible to all these hospitals across China. Already 30 hospitals are already using such technology. Some people might be biased against such technology being applied. But this can be very useful to prevent against misdiagnosis. Now, Xinjiang and Tibet will be covered for this application of this technology. We've been working with Xiehe, the best hospital in China. And it can also help the research capabilities of the doctors. Right now, very few doctors can have access to the information readily available post-operations, and now they can have it. We also can establish a library of such data. Now, with the technology being available, we will be able to have the real-time access or diagnosis of the health status of the people.
Sure, this is the only things I know, medical stuff, and the rest of industries, I have very little clue. Number one point is most of AI applications in healthcare that we see the results, great results, majority of them are cherry-picked data. So they are not real, because you can always find something that works really nicely in one scenario. And there are examples, good examples, Melody of Baidu and other companies. The only place that AI is helping and helping doctors in a good way is medical imaging, but not everywhere, just in some scenarios to detect a tumor, as he mentions, for eye retinopathy scanning. However, one thing that I want us to know, talking about medical AI, most of the time it gets to the point of, I call it borderline irresponsible. Because when we talk about patients, when we talk about diseases, when we talk about diagnosis, we gotta be very careful. Don't say something that create hope for patients. Patients are fragile. They just want something that cure them. Cancer patients, the worst ones in terms of like being fragile. So I want us together make a promise that when we talk about medical, be very careful about the wording we use, because a lot of things that we are hearing in the market, not today, here generally, is borderline irresponsible. And patients create hope for themselves. And
Humans first.
That's not a good thing. And that's my only wish and my only ask about anybody in technology and AI. Think of patients. They are very fragile. Yeah.
Very true. All right, let's take some of these questions. Boy, number 2 was back there. Is that you? Yes.
Hello. I'm the founder of Beijing Tongyue Mingxin. We're doing something that is like a close future, near future. It's actually a stage play. I want to use a stage play to reflect the future 20 years of society. That's why I'm so interested in today's topic. What I want to know is that after 20 years, which industries will see artificial intelligence? How popular will AI be after 20 years? Mr. Hong, please. AI technology is real. It can help every company, but maybe with different scale. We use digital transformation as the word to describe how we use ABC, AI, big data, and computation to help the businesses to conduct transformation in their products and services. A few years ago, we called Internet Plus. Now we call AI Plus to help your products iteration. Now we shortened the distance between companies and their clients proactively. And AI can help you to promote your image, and the internal business operation can be more effective. The largest asset of any company is their employees. So how to inspire the innovation out of their employees to create something more for a company? So 20 years later, humans will get different products and services from different companies, cheaper products with better qualities and better functions. It doesn't have to be top 1% people who will receive the best products and services in which industries or areas. I would say manufacturing industry. Manufacturing industry includes mobile phones and all kind of smart making areas. Healthcare, we have great expectations. The AAA medical system in China, we hope they can have more application. In US, the medical industry is thinking of how to bring down their cost. I dare not to say anything about that. Besides,
我想对每个公司来讲，不管怎么样，不管是哪个领域，
each business,
现在已经变成一个必要条件，因为你不做的话，别人做的话，
AI is becoming a must. If you don't do AI, then your competitiveness will be weakened.
高科技的进展一样，就是所谓的
It's the same with the advances of any high technology.
怎么样的话，帮助你的这个生产力，所以不管是哪一个
All of us want to improve our productivity.
娱乐界这个用这些的东西也是非常。
But other industries are using it as well, like entertainment industry.
When everyone zags, you should zig, or however that goes. All right, we have a question from our gentleman from Italy.
Two questions to the panelists. You said that the robot has not the creativity, but is not the risk that the people or the consumer give up the creativity in order to use such kind of easy system like the smartphone that now they keep 24 hours? Second question, British Analytica is just one case like the accident of Tesla, or is the trend for the future as was prospective from George Orwell in the romance 1984?
All right, is there a risk that using AI will somehow subtract from human creativity because we all get lazy? And the second is looking at Tesla's accident and the other, and Cambridge Analytica. Are these just one-time things, or are they a trend for the future?
I'd like to
Go ahead, Yunsu.
Talk about creativity of humans, whether it's going to be diminished or reduced by AI. Actually, I'm a little bit optimistic about the future of human race, especially regarding to the impact of AI. Maybe 10,000 years ago, humans were so busy in hunting animals because that's the only way to feed themselves. Now we have so much time in the evening watching TV and chatting with people over the phone and computer. Well, hunting down animals is more creative activity than chatting with friends over a smartphone. People can have different opinions about it. So, but I would say, chatting with friends over the phone is not less creative than hunting animals and thinking, where to find animals. 100 years later, AI will revolutionize a lot of things. The life pattern will be very different from what we have. Still, there will be life. There will be activities. Human beings will do something. Probably they will have more time because they don't have to do routine, works. So they will have actually more time to use their brain and to become more creative. So I think AI will free people, to explore new possibilities.
And if you asked one of those primitive people and told them what life was like, they'd be like, "That's terrible. What kind of life is that, right? You don't get to run and chase an animal, and miserable."
Let me add one thing: is smartphone. Do you think it improve the human productivity? No.
It's taken away my son's creativity.
Right.
He's useless with that.
They spend some other time on some non-productive things. Okay, but no CEO today is not afraid of not talking about AI, because AI indeed produce better productivity for the enterprise across the field. Every company, all kinds, they see the opportunity to use AI to improve their productivity.
Also in the 80s, I remember when the advent of the computer graphics programs came out, and artists would say, "Oh my God, no one's going to draw or paint. It's the end of art." It's a tool for a different kind of art, and I think that was to Yunsu's
That's right.
point. You've been waiting so long.
Yeah, thank you, Gina. I'm a reporter from Yitai, and we already talked a lot about the AI applications. And my question is to Mr. Liu from TSMC and Mr. Shim from Samsung. I want to ask a question about the AI chips. And you see there are a lot of Bitcoin miners also telling us about that they will take part in AI chip making. And do you view them as new disruptors in the IC industry? And also there are different technical routes like GPU, CPU, FPGA, and ASIC. Which one will be the main trend in 3 or 4 or 5 years later? Thank
or
you.
AI PUs?
No,
Yeah.
as a person actually developing neural processor technologies, I like to answer that question. We heard about Moore's law. The performance of IC chips increased 2 times every 1.5 years. But a lot of experts say Moore's law is dead. Well, actually, we cannot increase the frequency of single CPU core any further now because it generates too much heat. Right, the IC cannot handle it any further, and we don't want to put big pen on top of our small device. So now the expert in the field say the way to go for the future is to create process architectures optimized for each application. Actually, that is what's happening now. We have ASICs for Bitcoin mining. People used to use CPUs and GPUs. Now, most of the Bitcoin mining is done using ASICs, and that is happening also for the AI applications. We used to use CPU 10 years ago, now GPUs a few years ago. Now you will see a lot of devices, small devices especially, with new type of processor called neural processor, or CPU with neural processor unit. And also we'll see a lot of neural processors for the server as well. So that is a general technology trend. Application-specific processors is going to happen for AI, and it is happening already.
You talk about the cryptocurrency. It was very hot one time, and that draws a lot of smart people, innovators, trying to catch a scoop of gold. Forget about the gold for now. Those are really smart people. They create the fastest computing machine in the world and lowest power technology from them. So they break all the taboos or rules of computer architecture existing. They just create their own and optimize for specific purposes. We do not the destiny of cryptocurrency, but we know those innovators will move. They will move to AI. They will move to blockchain. They will move, and that's the reason we see the vigor at the edge computing is thriving, because very limited innovator at the cloud, because it's occupied already. But edge is open field for innovators, and with that, thousands, if not multiple thousands of innovators will come up to fruits, I think.
I remember at the beginning of the internet, people would say, where did all these internet people come from? They came from CD-ROM and semiconductors is where they came from. I would get you guys, but wasn't there somebody over here who's had their hand raised forever back here? No? All right, let's go start from the side.
Thank you. Reporter from Caixin Media. So I have a question for Mark. So first, speaking of AI, GPUs and other ASICs, they are becoming very important, and somehow, NVIDIA or some other startups, they are relying on TSMC. So people somehow worry about the supply of those chipsets. So how would you put some color on the supply side? And also, here is a major event in semiconductor industry that the founder of TSMC is going to retire this year. So would you like to share some of your feelings about this? Yeah, thank you.
If you talk about NVIDIA's supply issue, you better talk to this guy. Its memory is limiting, okay? But the thing is, no, there's no supply issue. I think there are technology issue. And the AI not just talk about the computing, they also need to talk about the memory. Memory need to closely connect it to the computing. And but I think your question is also talk about other than GPU, right? Today, GPU definitely is by far the largest market share of AI training, and not because of the hardware, really about the software, the incumbent application developer platforms. But with time, it may change, and we do see brave innovators come out with different architectures, and that's coming.
We literally have a minute. I thank you all for your questions. I thought we would just go around and ask everybody one quick question. We talked about what is your dream application in AI in your sector, but in the near term, and why, in the next year or two?
Well, I will answer differently. I think we are a platform company, Microsoft, and so I think along with all the chip and hardware now in the cloud, and now we talk about intelligent cloud, intelligent edge. So I think the role of the company like Microsoft is provide a platform. It's like we provide the shovel for people to actually dig the goal, and then you are asking the application. I will leave to our partner to actually dig the goal. We just very happy provide the shovel and all the tool, all the platform. And then I think, but that's exciting because the AI is for real, and I think a lot of industry, particularly we so-called to B. I think people probably see most to C application, but to B, every company they need to survive in the minimum way, and then not to mention they need to innovate themselves. So I think that's the opportunity we see.
Thank you, Shao. Let's move down. Mark.
Smartphones. Smartphones is new phenomena in our age. People sell 1.8 billion smartphones a year. All the new applications want to ride on that platform. So it only takes a year for the application to fly, if it works. So smartphone is the perfect platform for any new ideas, including AIs. So I wish the developer can find the application of AI on smartphones. That is the best way to embed the AI into our daily life.
Thank you, Qingfang.
Why I hope AI will make our society more warm. Whether education, medical, it's more than technology. Also, we need humanity, human care. So, if AI development is going to, help people get rid of this complexity, to have a more warm life, so that in politics, in medical, life will be better. So, human beings' feeling could be better expressed. Talking about smartphone, everybody is having a smartphone. Everybody in the future is going to have AI assistant, which will make your life more easier and more fun, and we're going to have a better life because of AI.
You got applause. That's awesome. All right.
And also, that's what we are working on very hard. I'm envisioning two applications for the near term. One is AI assistant on the device. So without dependency on the cloud. So you carry your assistant with you. It can be on your smartphone, or it can be on your motion intelligence device or earphone. That is one of my dreams. And the other is autonomous driving. We hear accident here and there. We have limitations, but we are working on it, and sooner or later, autonomous driving will come.
Thank you. Dan Vedit.
Well, my dream is not it's a bit of like a longer term rather than a short term dream. But we as a company and myself as a person, we get really sad when people die early because of a complication of a disease. And as you know, people die not because of their disease, because of the complications. And we as a Medopad, we are in the business of helping hospitals to manage different complex patients cohort. And if at some point, and I'm not saying that we can do it today, just want to be very clear, we can combine the intelligence that comes with machine learning and other methods in a way that we can start being proactive about all these complications. Ultimately, we can help people, ourselves, you guys, to live another 10 years, another 20, another 50 years extra, healthy, productive, and spending time with your loved ones. And that's what we really, really care.
Thank you, Dan. And Zhu Guang, we heard so little from you today. He has so much to say also. 就光。
谢谢。其实我们纵观人类历史。
Well, if we look back at the history of human beings, every technology revolution has upgraded productivity of human beings and has given us a lot of, saved us a lot of time. So I'm very confident about AI, which will enable us to have more spare time so that our imagination could be best used and to have a better life. For instance, we may save, by autonomous driving 1 hour, which allows us to do many meaningful things. And also by smartphone assistant, it will help us do many routine things so that we focus our time on more productive and more meaningful things. And also, hopefully, within our limited lifetime, we will devote our time on things we really want to do. So I'm sure the quality of life will be improved because of AI.
So great way to end things. I want to thank you all, and please thank the really great erudite panel we had today. They were terrific. Thanks. If you have questions and you can grab them, good luck. If you can't get them, email me. I'm at Hanson Robotics. Gina.Smith at Hanson Robotics. I'll get them for you. Bye, guys.